What if I told you spiritual guides have already made contact with you and you don't even realize it? Or maybe you do and you think something is up. Or maybe you've heard that voice in your head that does not sound like you. In this video, I'm going to give you three ways that you can tell that there's a spiritual guide or channel that has opened for you, and to confirm that you have actually made contact with your higher guide or other dimensional beings. Our spiritual guides are higher dimensional beings. Some of them are souls who have lived previous human lifetimes. Others could be light beings in completely different dimensions. Now, the first thing you might feel when you have made contact with the guide is a feeling, a tingling feeling, or a sort of sensation. Some people feel heat. I personally felt shivers going down my spine when I was making contact with what I believe is my higher guides. These guides will enter your field gently. Very few people, it is really rare that people will experience like shudders or physical body reactions like you might see channelers like Bashar, who usually goes through this like jerking physical sensation before he's able to make contact with his guide. That is quite rare, but for most people, it's a more gentle process that happens. And this feeling that I'm describing, the tingling, shuddering, the shivers, feeling of heat or warmth, it usually subsides quickly. Our guides want to make contact with us, but of course, if we had very intense reactions to that, some people might get freaked out by that and maybe would no longer want to make these sorts of connections. Now, you may not even be able to discern a spiritual guide or a higher guide aside from your own inner dialogue at first. You may have doubts, but these feelings can be a sign that there is some interaction happening there. And it's especially important to remember that at the start, a verbal message may not always come through. For me personally, especially someone starting to channel and trying to connect with higher guides, it is often just a feeling that I get through my heart. And I've spoken before about this heart mind connection, which is the key to opening these channels. So you may just have a feeling or sort of inner message at first, which is completely normal. The next one I have here is channeling or connecting with the spiritual guide, may be associated with a feeling of heightened awareness or general well being. There are many ways for a higher or spiritual guide to get their messages through to you, but they will usually find the path of least resistance that already resonates with you, whether it is pictures, spoken word, or a feeling, like I was mentioning earlier. They'll find the least resistance sensory pathway at first, and it may not be the most direct pathway to get a message to you, but as you channel and as you keep making these connections on a daily basis, I believe, the frequency and time you do this is more important than the length of time you do this. As you keep doing this, that connection will get stronger, the messages will get clearer. It'll eventually feel like you're acting as one with your guide, a sort of dance partner in your life. And you may even have a similarity of thoughts and ideas, except for a few things which I'll mention here in a second. As you make this stronger connection, the veil between the realm of yourself, the 3D realm, and your higher guide will get thinner, and you may have great realizations about yourself, really deep insights that maybe you've never even thought about before. Now, I mentioned that their answers or thoughts may be very similar to yours. But that brings me to the third point. The higher guide's answers to your questions may be very similar to yours, except they will differ in the way that there'll be a much deeper wisdom to the things that they're saying to you, deeper insight into even yourself sometimes. And I'm going to give you a little exercise that a woman was doing that helped her realize that she was in fact making connections with a higher guide. So there's a woman who wasn't sure, having self doubts about if she had actually made a connection with a higher spiritual guide who's attempting to help her, and wasn't really sure if this was an interaction, just an internal thing with her subconscious mind, or if there was actually something external. Many people do feel skeptical about things like this. And I was definitely one of those people many years ago. I've definitely come around over the years, but this exercise, I wish I would have known about it earlier. I think it would actually help differentiate between yourself and something actually coming from a higher guide. So she wasn't sure if she was channeling or not. So what she would do is she would write down transcripts of the things that she believed her higher guide was saying to her when she posed a question. And she was amazed by the things that were being said by this higher guide when she looked back 3 months later and saw that many of the things that the guide had explained she would be experiencing, she in fact had experienced over the 3 months as time went on. So before calling in your guide, ask a question and write down the answer immediately. Whatever comes from your conscious mind as who you are. Try not to think beyond yourself like you're trying to make a connection, just as if someone in your everyday life was asking you a question. Write the answer down, then go through your process of connecting with your higher spiritual guide, whether that's some form of meditation or process that you do, and then ask the question again and write down the answer. And you'll find that the answer you write down after you have connected with the guide and are able to channel a message will be similar, probably, to what you wrote down, but will have much greater depth and wisdom to it. Maybe we'll be able to reveal things beyond what you're able to perceive. And that's where I think guides can make the biggest difference is they perceive our reality much different than we perceive our own. And this is where this source of wisdom and insight comes from. I encourage you to do this exercise if you're watching this video and you're like, I'm not really sure if this guy is onto something, you're maybe feeling skeptical. This is a great exercise, maybe to prove to yourself if you have, in fact, made a connection with a higher guide or a spiritual guide. Now, remember, your guide is always present when you call. Anytime you call your guide, that connection can be made instantly. And some people wonder why this is the case, but you can think of this connection with your higher guide as sort of a telephone wire. And it only takes one strong connection from you to reconnect and, make that connection. Your higher guide is just waiting for the next strong signal. Maintaining a steady and clear channel, being consistent with your channeling practice, is the best way to pick up this connection where it left off. And I recently did a video on how guides see our reality very different than we see it, which leads to these very deep insights and inspired ideas that we often get from them. I'll definitely plug that video right there and you can check it out for yourself. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you again soon, friends. Peace.